Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Pursuit. I'm your host, Ben Spangle. Very excited for another great episode today. Today's going to be a special one because it's something, if you're like me, it's probably something that we know is important, but we haven't heard a lot about it, and that's the impact of proper hydration and proper water. I've got one of the top experts in the field, which I'm so excited to get a chance to visit with, Tracy Duhs. Tracy is just to give you a bit of an idea, but a big time wellness advocate. And I know her primary message is really that optimal health is not something that should be for only a select few, but instead really fundamental right for all of us, all of humanity. She does lots of consultations with big companies and corporations and hotels, helping them build a great wellness experience. She's the founder of the Sanctuary Wellness Experience in San Diego, co-founder of Hydrate. And I also know you got your new book coming out, Hydrate, too. I saw that as well. So excited about that. Tracy, thanks so much. So good to have you today.
Oh, Ben, thank you. Thank you for the introduction and making time to have me on your show. I can't wait to just rap with you today about all things hydration.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. That's for sure. I want to go back a little bit because I want people to get to know you a little bit. Why don't you share a little bit about your story, your journey? How'd you end up in this world?
Absolutely. So, what's crazy is if you're living in the US or a country that's developed like ours, we have access to clean drinking water. Since you're a child, just taking a bath, you wake up in the morning and you're thirsty and you turn on the faucet, and it's a gift that we have. And we don't realize, I know for myself, I didn't realize that there are people in this world that don't have that. There are people that have to walk for miles to find clean drinking water, to bathe in, to wash their clothes, to drink. And my parents are missionaries. So when I was 15, they actually let me go on a trip to Guatemala, and I got to shadow a doctor in an indigenous village in Guatemala. And there were a lot of deaths there. People were very, very sick. And most of them were sick because of the contamination in the water. And I just remember my eyes being open and my heart being opened in that moment, and realizing how blessed we are to have access to clean drinking water, and that water is life. It's living water. It's life. And we depend on it because 98.9% of our molecules in our body are water molecules. And our life depends on this water being clean and healthy and living. And we can go into what living water is.
Yeah.
But I am just so grateful for that opportunity to see that, because it helped me understand how important water is. And then I wanted to learn more about water and what it does for our body. And as I got into health and wellness, I went into pre-med when I was 15 studying. And I've just always been fascinated with the human body and understanding about how to optimize our health. And I've owned a health and wellness clinic for 15 years and done all the things, the bioenergetic medicine, the herbs, and all the things. And one day I woke up and I realized many people are sick because they're not doing the basics. They're not hydrating. They're not grounding to the earth. They're not getting sunlight. They're not getting hugs. They're not connecting, these basic things. And I started bringing my clients back with just the basics, nothing else. And I was seeing these crazy results that I hadn't seen before with just supplementation and things like that. And this light bulb went off in my head where we're not being taught the basics. And I really have this opportunity to start sharing with people how they can come alive again in a very easy, simple way.
Very cool. That's it's interesting how you think about that stuff, that often we live in such a where we want to overcomplicate everything type world, right? And how getting back to fundamentals and basics is so important. I'm curious. We're excited to hear about living water, but can you talk a bit about, as I've been following you for a bit, this idea that hydration is not just drinking water. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of us grow up learning if you want to be healthy and hydrated, drink 8 glasses of water a day, and that's it. No one ever talked about what type of water to drink. Maybe someone would say clean water or purified water, but no one really talked about what living water is. And also how to optimize that water so that your body can actually utilize it and it can get into the cells. And then you can have that balance between the fluid outside of your cells, the extracellular fluid and the intracellular fluid, so that you have this balance and this flow so that your cells are able to eliminate toxins and uptake nutrients and hydration. This is all essential. The type of water that you drink is very essential for that. So when we talk about hydration, there's so much that goes into it. I started a podcast. It's called Hydrate because I realized we could talk about this topic forever and never even scratch the surface of it. So there's a lot to talk about with hydration, but the basics are we don't want to drink purified water. We want our water to be free of contamination, chemical contamination. We want the chemistry to be pure, but we also want there to be the things that bring the water alive. So we want minerals in the water, and we want the signatures and the frequencies in the water that actually are living, coherent information. The water's been informed and it's alive, and it's signaling to our body to come alive. So the simple way that I love to just break that down for people, if they take anything away from this, throw out purified water. If you're going to the grocery store or picking up reverse osmosis water or purified water, get rid of the purified tap water. It's not hydrating you in an optimal way. You're in a chronic state of dehydration, which leads to inflammation and disease. We want to have water that is from a natural spring source. So if you can just take that away, either you go to the grocery store and you say, I can choose purified water or I can choose mountain spring water. Which one am I going to choose? Pick up the mountain spring water. Forget all of the marketing, all the big money that's been put into these things like Smart Water and the celebrities that are behind it. And Jennifer Aniston's beautiful and she's got this great skin, but she's drinking distilled tap water. That's not hydrating you.
Wow. Yeah. You've helped me, by the way. I know I was telling you briefly before the interview here, but just so everybody listening, you know, I'm big time into just optimizing our body and everything. And I think like most of us probably, you know, in the Western world, we have a sense that our tap water is probably not the best thing to drink for us. I think most of us have a sense of that. Although it's certainly, as you mentioned, you know, a lot better than a lot of places in the world. But for a while I was drinking just, you know, reverse osmosis, purified water. It tasted way better than the tap water. But then as I was following you, I learned about, okay, that simplified it for me, spring water. So now I got a company that actually delivers proper spring water. So it's helped our family too, which is awesome.
That makes me happy to hear.
So it's
a simple tweak. I always say something that all of us are already doing. It's nothing you need to change your lifestyle with. We're already all drinking water, hopefully. Just change the water that you're drinking and you can see a significant upgrade in your health. Yeah,
I love that. Maybe for someone that is, I don't know, it's new to them and maybe they drink lots of tap water. What would you say? Why do you not want to drink tap water? What are some of the downsides?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it depends on your source, where you live. All of the water is going to be different, the way that it's treated and what is in the tap water. But for the most part, there's chlorine, chloramines, there's different types of trihalomethanes, and the list goes on of how many chemical contaminants are in the water that we just don't want. I mean, if you're drinking water every single day, we don't want to be adding chemicals to our system that aren't needed. Fluoride. I mean, there's a lot of things that are over time causing assault on our body. And we're already living in a toxic world. There's a lot of stress on us, emotional stress, physical stress. if we can choose which water we're going to drink, let's choose one that's free of that chemical contamination, so that's not building up in our body. But also, when we say that, that's where people get confused, because a lot of people do know, or they've heard, okay, tap water does have, it's been treated, it usually has chemical contamination, but they don't know what it's treated with or why it's bad. Like trihalomethanes, even just taking a shower in that type of water has been known to cause miscarriages in women and birth defects. Yeah, that is a very important one to pay attention to, especially if you have young girls in your home who are developing. It's affecting their female organs. And so they're bathing in that, taking showers in that, and the trihalomethanes are building up in the body. So it's not just the water we're drinking, it's the water that we're showering in, the water that we're bathing in. So we want to make sure that we're addressing that with a whole home filter, and then also a point of use filter. But then what happens is the water that you're drinking now, it's so purified that it becomes incoherent. There's no structure to it because it's lost its coherence, it's lost its information, it's lost its ability to hydrate us because there's no structure to it. So you look at like a crystal. We love crystals because they're like a cell phone. They signal, send information, they receive information because they're a crystalline structure. Water, when you give it the minerals that it needs, it becomes its own crystalline structure, and it holds information, it receives information, and it also signals and sends information to your body, just like crystals do. And it's important that we think about what kind of information is being sent to our cells, especially if we're made up of 98.9% water molecules. There's a lot of information being held there inside of our cells that you are choosing to put into your body. So we want to make sure the chemistry of the water is good, but then we don't want just purified water because it's incoherent. And then what happens is if there's no minerals in the water, it can't penetrate into the cell, because we've learned in elementary school, you learn about osmosis. And in order for the water to get into the cell effectively, we need to have that osmotic balance between the intracellular fluid and the extracellular fluid, which requires a balanced set of minerals. And what's interesting is René Quinton in 1895 discovered, he's a French scientist, and he discovered that our blood plasma is identical to the ocean's plasma. The minerals that are in the ocean are identical to what our perfect blood plasma should look like. Most of us are missing a lot of the minerals that are in the ocean's plasma. We're depleted. And what's happening is our body, the water should be like a battery that's able to charge all of our cells, the circuitry in our system. But if we're missing minerals, then it has an inability to charge us. And so what happens is our cells aren't able to communicate effectively. When our cells aren't able to communicate effectively, they can't do the job that they inherently know how to do. Our cells have this innate intelligence. They know how to be healthy. They know when to go into cell autophagy. They know when to go into apoptosis. They know exactly what to do, but if they can't communicate, they can't do it. And then we get sick and disease. We lose energy. We think about also, just the energy of the body, voltage. Yes, our body has voltage, and water's the conduit that's carrying all of this energy. So if the water that we have in our body is purified, then our electrical circuitry is going to be not working properly. It's like a dead battery. Or even your cell phone, you think about the cells of your cell phone. It's called a cell phone because it's made out of cells, these crystalline cells that hold information, that signal information, that receive information. And your body does the same thing. Your body cells need to communicate But if they don't have a charge, they can't do it.
Wow. That's amazing. So just taking a step back for a sec. So you could be drinking, let's call it purified water. You could be drinking that regularly and still be very dehydrated then.
Yes. And the way I found that out was the hard way. I had gone to school, pre-med. I'd gone to school to learn about herbs, herbal school. I own a functional medicine clinic. I went back to a PhD program to learn about integrative medicine. And no one ever talked about water. Maybe drinking water, but not what kind or how important that was. And it was really interesting because when I became pregnant for my first daughter, Grace, it was all of a sudden I had this unquenchable thirst, this thirst that I just couldn't quench. And I would drink a gallon of water a day. And then we had a reverse osmosis filtration system. And the more I drank, the thirstier I became, because I had a mineral deficiency and a mineral imbalance. And that reverse osmosis water was really just flushing out my minerals. And I was pregnant for my daughter. I ended up having low amniotic fluid because I was so dehydrated. And she ended up being born emergency cesarean at 35 weeks because she had 2.3 centimeters or 2.5 centimeters of amniotic fluid. And they said, we've got to get this baby out because she's basically in a dry sack and she won't live through the weekend if we don't get her out. And even after she was born, I suffered from this dehydration and I couldn't figure out what it was. I kept going to doctors, allopathic doctors, natural doctors, and no one could figure out what it was. Finally, I started noticing the different kind of waters that I drink impact my thirst level. And then I noticed when I was drinking mountain spring water, I would drink this water that was mountain valley spring water. And I noticed when I drank that, it quenched my thirst for longer and I felt better. And I'm like, really? Is there a difference in how hydrating this is? And so I just started playing with it. And then I started researching about minerals and mineral balance. And I thought, wow, that's just so interesting that no one ever even thought about this or mentioned it. And so that just led me down this rabbit hole of really wanting to understand it. And then I realized I bet a lot of people are in a chronic state of dehydration and they want to be hydrated. They're trying their best, just like I was, but I lacked the education and the understanding of how to do that.
Wow. So on the note of the minerals that we're getting from our water or not getting from our water, if you're switching to natural spring water, right, the proper source natural spring water, would that have the proper balance of minerals that we would need to maintain? Is there anything we need to add to that?
That is a really good question, Ben. So no, most spring waters are not going to have all 78 trace elements that your body needs, that the ocean's plasma has, that your own blood plasma needs. We get minerals from different things like our soil, the food, the nutrition. It should be feeding us. But what's happened is we have so much commercial farming now that we're depleted of minerals. We're getting far too much calcium and we're not getting the balanced set of minerals that we need. And I really believe that a lot of our youth is having depression and imbalances in their neurochemistry because of imbalanced minerals. It's one of the reasons. And I think that the difference, the question that you asked is, are we getting enough from the mountain spring water? And no, we're not getting that whole balance set, but it is hydrating us because it's allowing the water to go into the cell and have that osmotic balance. But it's really important that we get all 78 trace elements, and where we get that from is the ocean. And that's why I really love Quinton Minerals. That's Quinton, because that's Rene Quinton discovered that. That's his company that he started. It's the ocean's plasma from plankton bloom that's living and active, and it has all this bioenergetic information, these living frequencies, but it also has all 78 trace elements. And I give those to every patient that comes in, and especially children that are growing. It's so essential and vital for their growth, and pregnant mothers. It's essential that they have those 78 trace elements for their developing fetus to have the best opportunity to develop in the healthiest way.
That's awesome. I'm really happy that you just shared that. That's great to hear. So adding that, and that's the best Quinton.
Yes, Quinton, it's the cleanest, purest form of getting all the minerals. And then just, looking at, there's different tests that you can get to see what your mineral balance is. I think the company's called Upgraded Labs. I can get you the link, but my friend Barton Scott owns that company, and he is just an amazing human, and he can look at your minerals. If you take a little clipping of your hair, and he can see where you're deficient in minerals so that you can really hone in on that and get that right. Minerals are so huge. It's important. You have too much of one, not enough of another. It's going to really affect everything in your body, and the way you feel, the way you're digesting, the way your cells are communicating, the hydration levels. It's big, and it's not something that I think enough of us understand, and nor do we need to. Like, if you're an attorney or you're a gardener or you're a teacher, focus on your craft. We all have a level of expertise of where we're at, but this is what I decided to focus my life's work on. And so I'm like, I love sharing about it because I know it can change people's lives, and it can really be pretty simple.
Yeah, actually, would you share? I'd be curious to know. I don't know the answer to this, but maybe tell me what you've noticed when a client comes to you. They start, okay, they're drinking proper spring water, they're getting the right mineral balances. What are some of the common positive symptoms, for lack of a better phrase, but what are some of the things that you notice people often experience when they start to shift this?
It really depends on the individual. I mean, I've had such extreme cases, from a woman that had such severe fibromyalgia that she couldn't even pull the covers over her body at night. Her husband had to pull the covers over her. She couldn't put her clothes on because she was in so much pain. And my prescription to her was just, I want you to take some Quinton minerals. I want you to start drinking mountain spring water, and I want you to walk on the beach 3 times a week for 45 minutes on the wet sand, because that really helps draw out the toxins. You're getting charged from the earth. It's also putting minerals back into the body. And then, getting the circuitry going so she could eliminate, so that all of her detox pathways could open up. And so she did that for 30 days, and she came back in tears, and she said, I'm 90% better. And I just, moments like that, clients like that, make me realize that a lot of people are suffering and sick, and they don't need to. It's unnecessary. The answer could be so simple. I'm not saying it's that way for everybody, but a lot of people that are suffering, and the answer is just one step away. It's something so simple that they just haven't uncovered. Like, for me, I suffered for years. My eyes were so dry that I would wake up in the morning and I had to peel my eyelids off of my eyeballs. My tongue would literally be stuck to the roof of my mouth. I was so uncomfortable. My joints hurt. I was inflamed. I'm in my young 20s. I almost lost my daughter in the pregnancy, all because of a simple mineral imbalance. And my answer was just one step away. I just started taking Quinton and drinking mountain spring water, and everything changed for me. So I also did mineral teas too, like nettle and horsetail and things like that. But it was a simple upgrade, not anything that cost a lot or where I had to have a ton of tests. Actually, all the expensive tests and vitamins and things that I did weren't helping the situation. My answer was just so close. And so I started going back to our clinic and really just listening to people and asking them about the basics. Hey, what kind of water are you drinking? Do you get outside and take your shoes off? Do you ever sit in the sunlight maybe for 10 minutes? How are your relationships, your interpersonal relationships? Do you feel lonely? Because loneliness is like, they've done research on, it's like smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's so bad for your health if you feel chronically lonely. So just going back and talking to people about their basics, and it just became this exciting thing for me where I was like, wow, so many of my clients are getting better. Our patients were transforming, and they were sick just because they weren't doing the basics. And they had been to so many doctors getting scans, MRIs, spending all this money on unnecessarily. So we all know that chronic dehydration leads to inflammation. And we also know that all inflammation leads to disease.
Yeah.
Now that may sound like a overstretch, but why not just look at it and just observe it? If your answer could be that simple, then why not just try it and then go from there and do all the extreme things? But I love talking about water and hydration because I've just seen it impact so many people's lives. I get messages every day, oh, my life's been changed, or, even situations where, oh, my wife had this severe depression. Thank you so much. She's so much better now. And I didn't even realize it was just because there was so much inflammation in the brain from dehydration. And now she's hydrated and she feels better. These kind of stories that I get are, they're very exciting to me. It's like a little lab where I'm realizing we weren't taught the basics when we were kids, and our parents weren't taught the basics either. So if we can go back to the basics and start there and then see, okay, if that doesn't help, then we can try other things. But let's just start really simple and see what happens.
Love it. I think that's so awesome. Yeah, so awesome. We talk a lot on our show. We're big about mindset, vibration, and your frequency and everything. And as you're talking about this stuff, I just love the idea of getting our cells right and proper cellular hydration. And I've heard you talk about too, and other stuff I've listened with you, just the idea of the body as essentially an electrical system. So I'm curious, if anything, what do you think the impact of, because we are vibrational beings, what do you think the impact is of getting this stuff right? How's that start to help us in other areas of our life?
Oh gosh. I mean, that's something we could talk about forever. But one thing I think about when you talk about vibrational frequencies and energy, I think about how we talked about how water holds information, just like a crystal does. If we are 98.9% water molecules, then think about this. Every word you say, every thought you think, everything you do is sending a signal to the body of water that you are. And that makes me so excited because it helps me realize that we get to choose. We get to choose the words we're going to say. Are we speaking life into ourselves, into others? Are we thinking thoughts that are lovely, that are kind, that are thoughts with living frequencies? Because all of these are impacting the body of water that we are at every moment. And then the environments that we're in, I make sure my Wi-Fi is turned off unless I need it. It's not on in our home. Everything's remediated in our home. I make sure that we keep it as clean as possible from non-native electromagnetic frequencies. So there's just things that we can do. We can take responsibility, and that word responsibility is exciting because it means I have the ability to respond. Now that I have this information and I understand that the body of water that I am receives and transmits information, then I have an opportunity to do something about it.
I love that. Yeah, that's so good. We are the receiving and transmitting station. And I think we're talking about upgrading the station. How can you operate on a higher level frequency? So So good. We could probably spend another 3 hours talking about this stuff and longer probably, but I know we don't have time for that. Last thing I want to talk to you about today, you were sharing a little bit with me. You started the conversation on how this whole journey began with you of seeing where in that community where people weren't having access to clean drinking water. And so I want you to talk a little bit about just your mission and what you want to share with the world on this.
Yeah, so my mission before I die is I want to make sure that every single person has access to clean drinking water. And I'm bringing different scientists together and putting together a coalition of people that want to come together and do this. Now, there's many beautiful organizations that are already building wells and bringing water to places where they don't have it. But my mission is to bring all of these organizations together and everyone interested in helping with this cause so that we can work together, because together we are stronger. Together we can make more impact, and together we can solve this problem, and we will solve this problem. So if anybody's interested in learning more about water or passionate about helping other people have access to clean water, please reach out to me, because it doesn't matter what your expertise is, we can use you. We're a body that we come together, and we need each other's gifts in order to complete this project. So you can reach me through email at hydrate@tracyduhs.com. I'm also very active on social media at at Tracy Duhs, which is TRACY and then DUHS. Or you can go to my website, tracyduhs.com, and reach out there. And anyway, just let me know how you'd like to be involved, and I would just love to connect with you.
Amazing. So good. Everybody, thanks for taking some time with us. Tracy, thank you so much. Make sure you go follow Tracy on social media. She is very active. That's where a lot of the information I've got has just come from following you on Instagram specifically. And as I mentioned, it's made a big difference for our family. So do that, get connected with her, learn more about it. Check out her podcast as well, the Hydrate podcast. It's an awesome one. And yeah, thanks for tuning in with us. Share this episode. As you do, make sure to tag Tracy, tag myself, and let's get this information out to more people. And comment. I'd be curious in the comments too of what you learned about this. What was the greatest impact for you? And if you're unclear on where to start where she shared earlier. And certainly what's helped us is just switch from purified water to natural spring water. That's the easiest place to start. Tracy, thanks again. Appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you.